SEQUELITIS. SEQUELITIS. Yes, I made up a word. It can simply be defined as when a sequel loses its spark even though it is superior to the original. Spider-Man 2 is a game that clearly has taken the next tiny steps in refining the formula of the first game, but it's still not enough to give the game its very own identity. I want to thank you all for stopping by. The support is overwhelming. Please go ahead and like the video, and if you're feeling generous, hey, go crazy and subscribe. Let's smash that 1000 subscriber number. In the world of video games, sequels are usually seen as the superior counterpart to the original, especially when the game is the first effort by the game developers, or if they are venturing into a new genre. Most games usually blossom at their second crack at the formula because it allows devs address the issues that plague the original, like, I don't know, limited budget, fleshing out mechanics, or, just taking the vision to the height it was always intended. This crown is really reserved for just the second game in any series. It usually doesn't extend to anything after the immediate successor. If the game attempts to repeat, it loses a bit of that spark. It might be a great follow-up, but it's really no longer special. There are ways to combat this: improve graphics, throwing a lot of money at a subsequent sequel, but the biggest motivator has always been time. Time allows developers create something truly special. It also resets your palette of the previous experience and allows nostalgia kicking. I want to get something straight. Something not being special doesn't mean it can't be great. In fact, Spider-Man 2 is a great game with a very enjoyable story, deeply engaging characters, a very tense showdown with a villain that oozes charisma, and a combat system that has been refined to perfection. But there's a but. Well, enough foreplay. Here's my review of Spider-Man 2 and how it clearly falls into the sequel course. I always like to start at performance. Spider-Man 2 was released solely on the PS5, and it shows in how everything loads up. That SSD is bordering on full-blown magic. Sony always makes sure all its first-party exclusives strive for a high level of excellence in performance. I played Final Fantasy 16 just recently, and the game ran smooth from start to finish. Surprisingly, that wasn't the case in Spider-Man 2. The game had bugs popping here and there, crashes. Look, I'm not somebody who clips through a wall once and goes off on the whole game, but I found myself having to actually restart some missions due to the game bugging out. I found myself stuck in animations, or the game would just full-blown crash sometimes. To be honest, in a 100% playthrough, this occurred maybe 5%, but it still felt really weird. I'm so used to a certain level of excellence from Insomniac and Sony, so it just goes to show that they are actually human. Overall, a very good playing experience with very few occasional bugs and crashes. This entire review is spoiler free, but I'll be talking about the entire story now, so please skip to this part of the video to avoid spoilers. I got feedback from my last video that the spoiler wasn't good enough, so this is a loud spoiler warning. And do you know what? Let's go ahead and fill up the entire screen with the text warning too. Yeah. I hope Sonic is happy now. Spider-Man 2 is set 10 months after the events of Miles Morales, follows Peter and Miles as they navigate through their personal life and what it takes to be New York's friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. I loved the story of Spider-Man 2. It has an emotional gut punch that the first game was lacking, and a lot of the side characters get much needed screen time to shine and make their stamp on the story. It was some top tier character building by Insomniac. I'm going to make a preemptive declaration that someone in the comment section is going to bring receipts and make me regret. Spider-Man as a character is probably the best written superhero in all of comics. And do you know why? It's because of Peter Parker. Peter, or Miles, is literally the antithesis of Spider-Man and vice versa. It is why Spider-Man stories are so emotional. The baggage that comes with being both Peter and Spider-Man. These two personalities have very different wants and needs and are always both vying for control. Insomniac understood this assignment perfectly and made this game a Peter Parker / Miles story as much as a Spider-Man story. I get some people who say, I bought Spider-Man, I want to play Spider-Man, but trust me, the alter ego is what makes that character. All superheroes have alter egos, but for Spider-Man, Peter is front and center, and it helps drive the emotional storytelling of the character. Bruce Wayne can have an occasional hookup with Talia that produces a son, but Peter and Miles have to deal with real life issues while being Spider-Man, and the story won't be complete without showing that side. I won't be surprised if Batman made love to Talia in the Batsuit. I love this moment when both worlds collide and you can actually see the emotional stress both personalities are putting on one another. Insomniac made us understand that, look, it's really cool zipping around through Brooklyn, but you need a job, you need to work, your relationship needs nurturing. You were basically a person before these powers came in, and there is more to life than being a superhero. I also love the new introduction to the main cast, which is Harry, and that the fact that the symbiote story was reworked to have him be Venom. I don't know if this has been explored in the comics, but it really added another emotional layer to it. It just wasn't the main story. There were so many wholesome moments. I really enjoyed the little moment when the story slows down and it's just people being vulnerable. It extends to the very, very wholesome side missions. Some of my favorite, there's a mission where you actually get a robotic dog for a blind lady with allergies, or where you get to uncover a plot by someone who's trying to steal artifacts from an African American museum. There was a mission very close to my heart where you had to control Miles' girlfriend and play an entire section with no sound since she's deaf. It really hit me personally. I have a sister that's deaf. I really felt how hard it must be for everyone dealing with this day to day. Insomniac, that was really great. Let's talk about things I didn't like. Basically, it all comes down to the villain. This game was marketed as a Venom being the big bad, and that's fine, but Kraven has so much screen time and Venom didn't. It almost felt like another Sam Raimi Spider-Man 3 fiasco. Throughout the entire game, I never took Kraven serious. Every time he captured or growled at Spider-Man, all that will come to my mind is, yeah, Venom will soon take over. But the problem is, I actually grew to really like Kraven. My god, that guy is so freaking cool. I don't have enough knowledge on him as a villain, but all of a sudden I'm interested in the upcoming Kraven movie. I feel the game had two ways on how to fix this. Take Kraven out of the playing field very early, let the game shift focus to the symbiotes, or have the concept of a villain who hunts other villains. Everyone can band together and be like, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. So even Venom will have to team up to take this big bad down. But the problem is they left Kraven on for too long and he ended up sucking up all the charisma in the air, and there wasn't a lot of charisma to suck up since the sequel had a shrunken down villain pool compared to the first. I just didn't like the fact that almost 60% into the story was dedicated to the hunt, and then it just devolves into some world is ending symbiote hellscape. I don't know, it felt like Venom was going to always feature, but someone or something forced them to make him the final bad. The symbiote storyline deserves its own game dedicated to it without any distraction, and Kraven was a phenomenal distraction. I still like the story. It had some deep emotional moments, a wide range of diverse characters who feel three-dimensional, some very big surprises. Can you imagine missing this side story plotline with Carnage? Wow, I was excited. We all know that Venom has crossed into anti-hero territory, so I can't wait to see Carnage in all his glory. And the main characters were fantastic. I am 100% on board with Miles becoming the main Spider-Man. He was definitely my favorite. The world of Spider-Man 2 is set in New York and sees the addition of Queens and Brooklyn that were already added in Miles Morales. But I expected more, and I'm not talking about map side, from the actual world. Let's use this PS5 computing power other than quicker load times and instant fast travel. There was something that happened. I saw a random accident and I don't know, I would have loved to maybe tow the pedestrian to like a body shop, or you know, when I was in a basketball court, maybe play 2-on-2, take some selfies with fans, you know, just some randomized events that give the city a little bit of attitude. The only thing that really happens is when you run at citizens, they just cower in fear. It doesn't feel enough to me. I haven't been to New York, but I've seen movies, you know, street bands, street performers, people asking for spare change. That's something that makes the world feel lived in. Insomniac has actually improved the world with some little Easter eggs and some details here and there, better interior parallaxes that add more detail. But I think a sequel on a new console with all this power deserves more than a bump in population density and graphics. Let's talk about the combat. The first 30 minutes of this game was incredible. I love when games do this, when they inject so much adrenaline into those first 30 minutes and it carries you through the entire game. Is it just me, or did you notice some similarities between the opening sequence and the infamous 2 opening sequence? The action set pieces in this game are just fantastic, movie level fantastic. I'm telling you, Spider-Man 2 will make QTEs cool again. The game is still, very Arkham inspired, but it has taking steps to refine the combat that was introduced in the first game. Peter has new symbiote powers and Miles also has new electrical powers, which just makes beating bad guys still as fun as possible. There is also the addition of a parry that I wasn't using at first, but if you're playing on spectacular difficulty, you are definitely going to need it. I made a short video a while back of my wish list for Spider-Man 2, and I said I wanted dynamic switching where you go from Miles to Peter and back to Miles seamlessly. I can tell you the game has this in some capacity. There are side activities and side missions that are tied to both characters, but there's a problem, and this is not with Insomniac, but with story-based games that use multiple characters. Most of them feel like skin changes with some ability differences here and there. It's one of the reasons I loved Edge of Tomorrow, Shattered Dimensions. Let me go off on a little tangent. Just look at Miguel in Across the Spider-Verse. He's like no other Spider-Man. He can't even stick on walls, so he had to become Johnny Bravo and build upper body strength so that his talons can stick. This is what I wanted from the game. I want to feel the difference between them. Maybe make Peter someone who does more hand-to-hand and let Miles be more acrobatic. Maybe let Peter be stronger physically, but Miles extend combos better. Maybe make Peter be better at web swinging due to his experience, and make Miles faster. It was so bad that for half of the game, I never did air tricks with Peter because I just figured only Miles should be able to do air tricks, but I mistakenly did it once, and the moment I saw Peter could do air tricks, a little part of me died inside. The suits now even make telling them apart even harder, which they are all excellent by the way, and I'm glad powers are no longer tied to suit. I get it, this is so much work, way more work than this game probably needs, but there is a reason why we all can't wait for 2025, because you and I know those two characters will be very different. I actually don't switch characters in Spider-Man 2. I allow the mission or side mission I encounter make the switch for me automatically. This is just as playable characters. They were both written incredibly well. I just wanted more differences between them. The missions in Spider-Man 2 consist of main story, puzzles, random events, challenges, and some side missions with very deep story elements that really surprised me. There were some mini games, I think I'll call them mini games, peppered in here and there that were really fun. They never overstayed their welcome, and they knew when to give the gameplay a little break. We also need to talk about the MJ sequences that had as overpowered as possible, but I think they were better than the MJ sections in the previous game, and I liked them. They went above and beyond to break down the monotony of gameplay, which brings me to the final thing: bosses. I don't want to say so much as not to fall into spoiler territory, but the boss fights didn't have the same energy and variety as the previous game. The Sandman boss fight was my favorite, but you got to experience that in the first 30 minutes of the game. Most of the boss fights, I don't know, they didn't just wow me like the previous game. And is it me, or I think they were fewer? I think I need to check it. I need to check Spider-Man 1 again. I do like how some bosses aren't all in the main storyline. Spider-Man has a very deep rogues gallery. I feel they should have added more and made them feel a little bit more different between each other. I watched the Game Awards, and all I heard was Spider-Man 2 was nominated 7 times and it took home not a single award. And not to sound mean, but I'm not surprised it didn't take home a single award. Not because the game isn't good, but it suffers from sequelitis. So let's do a rewind to what I said at the beginning when it comes to sequels. In the world of video games, Sequels are usually seen as the superior counterpart to the original, especially when the game is the first offered by the game developers or if they are venturing into a new genre. Most games usually blossom at their second crack at the formula. But the problem is Spider-Man 2 is not the second game in the series. It's the third. Miles Morales robbed Spider-Man 2 of any uniqueness it could have brought to the table. When I played Spider-Man 2, it felt like a very well-made extended DLC, and I knew it wouldn't be able to recapture the magic of the first or show the improvements of a sequel. It just felt like a third game that has a 2 tagged on it. It's also one of the reasons I agree with Santa Monica and Nintendo, who have said that their 2 biggest games, God of War and Breath of the Wild, are going to be duologies. Trust me, there is still a lot of juice can be squeezed out of those settings, and I will buy a third game like that. But in 3 years' time, when the third installments of this game finally come out, they will feel even less special than the original. I get it. You're probably typing that, well, awards don't matter. And honestly, it doesn't. If Better Call Saul and It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia had never won any Emmys, then yep, awards are stupid. But do you know who cares about awards? The parent companies. HBO struts around all the awards it has bagged over the years, or Sony with his 2 favorite kids, Last of Us and God of War. Sales figures are important, but this awards proves that you are a cut above the competition. I also see you typing a list of games that still feel magical after so many entries, and it all comes down to time. Look, talent is important, but there are no shortcuts to making games. Rockstar games are great because they take their time. There isn't any other magic, and I believe Insomniac is that good if they just take more time in making their games. I made a video a while back ranking PlayStation studios into a tier list, and I said Insomniac is the best PlayStation studio, and after playing Spider-Man 2, that statement has officially been stamped when you factor how diverse their back catalog is, how consistent they are, how financially successful these games are. In just 3 years, Insomniac has released 2.5 exclusives for the PS5, while Naughty Dog has done 2 remakes, cancelled factions, and will probably release 1 game in this console generation in maybe 2026. I always keep waiting for the Jason Schreier article on Crunch in Insomniac, but even with this level of excellence and consistency from Insomniac, I can assure you that the next Naughty Dog game is going to bag way more awards and be etched into video game history over anything Insomniac releases. And I'm not trying to pit studios against each other. I just feel this 2-year turnaround is not doing Insomniac any favors. I saw the leaked release schedule for Insomniac. By the way, those hackers should be ashamed of themselves. But I did get a glance at their release schedule, and they plan to release 5 games in the span of 6 years. I think 1 or 2 of them kind of sound like DLCs too, but from one studio. I feel bad saying this, but Insomniac should get ready to not win any awards, because you need time to make something truly special. I'm so proud of what they have achieved. They went from a studio that was abandoned by Sony, stupidly allowed to walk away by Microsoft, to being purchased again by Sony. I just want them to get those little silver angels to go along with all the hard work they have put in. Spider-Man 2 is a great game that an extra year or 2 could have pushed to phenomenal status, but it is still a great follow-up to the previous game and is slowly becoming the definitive gaming superhero experience. Thanks for watching, and if you like what you saw, please go ahead and buy Spider-Man 2. And if you liked what you heard, like, share and subscribe, and here are some other videos you might like. Ice out. Peace.